Welcome into the studio. It's June the 28th, 2021 when I'm recording this, and I'm just showing you what I've just finished off, and I'll be doing this pastel demonstration video over on my Patreon art channel in the next day or so. So if you really want to look into very detailed, realistic looking fur and hair, this is going to be a great video lesson for you. But on this YouTube video, I'm going to show you the technique I use with PanPastels on how to create a really fast and effective. Now for this demo I'm using Pastel Matte brown paper because that just fits in well with the overall brown tones of the lion. And for those that don't know what PanPastels are, I go into it in great depth on lots of my other YouTube videos, but they're basically a compressed pastel that you've got in these pans and you can apply them with sponge-like tools. So what I'm doing here is just applying firstly the darker layers of PanPastel, and you can see I'm going in, the fur growth direction, and I talk about that again on lots and lots of my videos, whether we're using PanPastel or pastel sticks or pencils, we're always applying in that fur growth direction. Now one of the secrets of applying pans as an underlayer is you really don't want to be applying too much pastel. Sometimes artists tell me that they've applied the pans as the underlayer, then they go on top with pencils and the pencil marks are not showing, and they really should show on top of PanPastels extremely easily. If they're not, you're doing one of a couple of simple things wrong. Number one, you're probably not using the right type of paper, so you do need a paper like Pastel Matte. Number two, you're probably applying way too much PanPastel, and you'll see in this demonstration how I really apply just a very, very small amount. And number three, you may not be blending them in. So if you do put quite a bit of PanPastel down, make sure you use something like a paper stump or even your fingers and blend it and push it into the surface. Otherwise, as I said, if you've put too much down, that's just sitting on the surface of the paper. When you then put a pastel pencil on top, especially a harder brand like Pitt or Carbothello, they can actually skip on the surface a bit. So it's a good indicator if your pencil marks are not laying down and showing up on top of PanPastels that you have put too heavy a layer down. Now to help stop that happening, off to the right, just off screen, but I do show this again in lots of videos where I show the mixing of PanPastels. I'm just selecting some of the pan, putting it onto printer paper, just normal inkjet paper, just rubbing it in with the tool, mixing there like I would kind of like oil paints, and then applying it to the surface. And that helps me to prevent, if you're going straight from the pan itself straight onto the paper, that's when you can really deposit too much. So that's where I use a little bit of printer paper to the side just to do the mixing of the pans on there. And as I mentioned, if you look at some of my other videos on YouTube as well as my Patreon art channel, I really go into depth showing you the mixing of the pans. But the bad part about that, if I show a lot of that on screen, you don't see the application as large on screen onto the paper itself. So I wanted to show the paper more in this video, but there are plenty of other videos where I'm showing the actual mixing of the pan on that simple printer paper. Using PanPastels is very, very similar to oils in the way that we're looking at things. We really go in from, in general with pastels, from dark to light, and this whole underlayer is all a little bit darker than I want the finished drawing to be. So this is very similar, as I said, to oils, and also like it's the feel of sculpting. You're just putting the main masses down in that fur direction in general. Now don't expect your little applicator tips to last a long time. Pastel Matte paper has got a bit of a roughish texture to it, nowhere near as rough as normal sanded papers, so they would really rip the surface of the applicator, and I use the applicator really to destruction. So I'll keep going with it, on different drawings if they last that long until it really is pulled apart, and that's when I put a new one on top. And you can easily clean them in between colours or whatever just by wiping the surface with a microfiber cloth. Now I'll take enough of the pastel off of the surface of the applicator. So you can see it's still going in that general fur direction, working dark to light mainly. But you can see in that image top right hand corner, that's showing exactly what I'm working towards with the PanPastels. That's where I'm going to end the video, showing the full underlayer that's done in just about 15 minutes or so. We don't need to be really accurate or detailed at all, because I will go over this then with what I call a texturizing layer, and that's basically putting in the real darker elements in between the first strokes, creating the texture, the darker texture, and then on top of that goes my lighter final layers, putting the details and the refinement. Here I'm not concerning myself with lots of small haze that I see on my reference photo. I'm just after blocking in the major masses. So even if there's lots of little fine dark haze in here or light ones, I'm forgetting about that. You can get the effect that you want, what you're aiming for, if you look at your reference photo and really blur your eyes or put it into an image editor and put a Gaussian blur on it, so you lose all the details and you're just seeing the major chunks of colours and tones. That's what we're after with this underlayer. Now you could do this using pastel sticks. I like the rather harder pastel sticks because they give me a bit more control, so I like things like the Rembrandt sticks or Jackson's pastel sticks or the Faber-Castell sticks. They are all really a bit harder. If you've got a very soft pastel stick, you're more prone to putting too much down, and once again you'll have those issues putting details with pencils on top of it. And I really like nice crisp details, or the ability to do that on most of my wildlife works. I'm not really a more expressive artist. I really love to get lost in putting those details. So the secret is don't get too much pastel on your first layer. Continuing that process, and you can easily see how the pastel really blends nicely together. See, I'm just putting a darker area there. That comes around. You see, really, because we know we can put many more layers on top, you don't need to be too accurate with this layer at all. Now another great thing about PanPastels is you don't need that many colours. You can easily mix one colour into another to kind of tint or tone it, and you can add white in there and darks in there. So you don't have to go out and get the whole set if you don't want to. But you can see on this demo how quick they actually make the underlayer process. See, I've got a nice light area coming around here, and then it starts to begin to go a darker area on this right hand side. Now if you want with PanPastels, you can always refine it even more and even do the whole drawing with pans if you want that looser appearance. And if you look at my cougar video, my mountain lion video on YouTube, I show you how you can take it to another step beyond the underlayer, as I said, creating more details on top. Now on this back section we go quite a lot darker. This is only a very small piece of paper that I'm using just to specifically demonstrate really detailed, difficult and long and short fur on my Patreon channel, and the lesson will probably be around about 2 hours long, and I'll put a lot more tips, techniques and instructions in that longer video. So all that's really left to do with the underlayer is some of the darker areas. Now the blacks with PanPastels are not as black as I can get with pastel sticks or the other techniques and tools that I show in the long video, but they really still a very good indication or indicator of where the main masses of darks and lights are going to be. So that's the reason that I really use it. And once I've got an area like this done, as I said, I can come in and refine it a little bit more if I want, but I generally find that the amount of an underlayer like this is plenty then to start getting on with my pencils or my sticks to really do the refinement and build the layers on top. So there you go, that's the underlayer. As you can see, I use very little PanPastel. They really last a long time because it's not like you're putting a great amount of the pastel down. You're just really putting enough down to give the effect that we want for the underlayer so we can get those details on top. So I hope you enjoyed that little video. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my other videos. Just wanted to quickly mention my Patreon channel for those looking for even more in-depth art instruction. It's packed full of pastel videos, oil videos as well, and those videos are being added to new ones every single month. I have videos for the complete beginner that have never done pastels or oils before with just limited supplies, and I take you from the very first blocking in all the way through to the final detailed drawings and paintings. I've also got some really unusual subjects as well, and in all of my videos I always take you through all the details. You see everything I do, how I create my work. But it's not just for beginners, it's also for novices, and I also show the best artwork that I've ever done as well. And this particular elephant video spans 6 hours, so you know you're going to see tons and tons of details, tips and techniques. And as mentioned, I've got lots of oil videos on there too, so there really is something for everybody, and you get access to hundreds of hours worth of videos for just $4. Now over 1,000 members strong. Hope to see you there soon.